Welcome back to another video, and today I'll be discussing the newest makeup announcements and releases. Welcome back, and today we're going to be going through some of the newest makeup announcements and releases that have been made. And last week was a bit of a quiet week, but with this week we are definitely picking up, and we are seeing now, I think, finally some Valentine's Day releases, because we have seen a few with the sort of spring release sneak peeks, but I don't think we have had that many Valentine's releases until now. I think in this video there's quite a few ones, and I think there are quite a few ones that I'm actually very interested in, so that is of course going to be pretty curious to see which ones I'll be picking up, because I am going to be, I think it should be like I don't think I'll be doing a separate channel update video, but regarding especially the beginning of this year, I'm gonna be a bit on a tighter makeup budget, because there's gonna be some other things that I have to put money forward, especially on the beginning of the year. So that I think all the way till March we are gonna be like, I'm still gonna be buying makeup, but it's gonna be less than what I, for example, did last year. And also I did kind of go through my last year's makeup budget, because I actually do put all my makeup purchases in one Excel every year to sort of like keep up how much I spend, and I wasn't exactly happy with the sum that I spent on products during last year. So we are also like trying to maybe be a bit more conscious about what we are putting what I am, for example, putting my money forward. And it is something I would of course encourage you, that if you do like to spend money on makeup, then always do make the consideration that what is it that you actually would enjoy, because obviously makeup isn't something that you need or must have, but I do know that for many of us it brings a lot of joy. But it is quite easy with this whole like social media influence around us. It is quite easy to get caught up with sort of like spending and everything. But I still wasn't like, even though I spent more money than I would have liked to during last year to my makeup purchases, I actually like, I didn't overspend at any month. I still was able to like keep up within the budget limits. But definitely now, especially at the beginning of the year, because I am kind of also like forced to budget a bit better, I think it's a good exercise to be a bit more conscious what I will be picking. But that is probably why we are going to be having to making some tough choices with the Valentine's releases, because there's been quite, I think, during the last couple of years. I think last year I was actually pretty good with the Valentine's releases. I didn't go to the, like, I didn't fall into a trap of buying similar releases, because it seems that every Valentine's we seem to get quite similar color stories and things from brands. I don't know how does it happen every day, because we are definitely, there has been themes in terms of Valentine's releases during the last couple of years. For example, I think 2 years ago we had this sort of phenomenon of like grungy Valentines. We got a lot of brands were releasing very like grungy Valentine's palette. I think last year it was a bit more, I think quite a lot of pinks were popular, and I think now moving to this year's releases, I think we're seeing these traditional red themed releases quite a lot. So that is interesting how we are getting the sort of theme, even though these are obviously produced by different brands. But that was a bit of a like intro and maybe a bit of update about the sort of content. So I'll be obviously like still doing makeup news videos, and you are gonna see content on my channel, but it's probably gonna revolve more around things that I already have, and then showing the bit more limited things that I'm getting in the beginning of the year. But about the makeup news, let's go into it. As I said, we do have quite interesting things to talk about. Alright, and the first one, this is not a Valentine's release, but this is this is here just because I think the packaging is pretty. This is not something that I'm gonna get, because this is also a brand that's a bit harder for me to get, but Gucci Beauty has released a new cushion foundation. This is the Éternité de Beauty Cushion Foundation. And while I do think the shade range is questionable at best, we are having, I think there's quite like, we could have done more, especially considering Gucci is a more like bigger, better financed makeup brand, so we could have gotten more shades. But this is here purely because of the packaging. Gucci does kills it with the packaging, and this has a very beautiful, I'd say this is almost like spring themed, this sort of floral packaging. And Gucci is always something that, because usually I travel a couple of times during the year. There's one common holiday trip that me and my husband do every summer, and then usually there's been like one work trip abroad per year, at least during the last few years. And in some of the like European airports, Gucci is available in tax-free, so that is usually the place where I like to like admire Gucci. And also in some of like bigger European cities, department stores carry. So this is usually a brand that I like to ogle the stands when I have the opportunity. But this cushion foundation, it's a skip for me. It's probably quite pricey, and as I said, it's a brand. I do think I can technically actually get Gucci on Cult Beauty, on Cult Beauty, and even on Notino these days, but it's just not something that I necessarily want to spend my money on, because the products are quite pricey. So SUQQU spring collection is out. I do think this is quite appropriate for being a spring collection. We are seeing a very pastel-esque theme when you look at the products. There is, I think the eyeshadow palette is like pretty in line. I think we might have seen this sort of like color story before, so there's a bit of purple and then we have some peachy tones in it. There are some single shadows. I do think that maybe the fun thing in the singles is the like pop of mint that you're seeing. The lip products are, or the colors on the lip products, these are, I would say, a bit more like toned down, a bit more than like lighter. And I think there might be also liquid blushes included in this particular launch. I'm a bit unsure, are the liquid blushes a completely new product for them or is it a line extension? But I do have to say there is like one quite fun like lilac looking shade, so that is a bit something different for especially this kind of luxury brands. I do think SUQQU, in terms of aesthetics and how they do usually curate their collections, they are very successful at it, but because of the pricing and because they're still not like nothing that extraordinary with these collections, I have so far been able to avoid buying these. SUQQU is something that if you live in UK or in Europe, I think Cult Beauty does stock them, but they don't get every collection, but I do think they get the main collection, so I do think this might be something that will come into Cult Beauty in time. Then something that was quite interesting. So Marlena Stell, who founded Makeup Geek, which used to be a very groundbreaking, like it was one of the like first influencer brands, and if you watch the like OG makeup YouTube, I got into like watching makeup YouTube content. I think it was already when Makeup Geek, they were sort of already maybe like past their prime, if you could say. But Makeup Geek and especially Marlena for the longest time was someone who a lot of people respected in the makeup community, and Makeup Geek became known for the fact that I think they produced these like they produced singles that were relatively affordable and good quality. This was I think you were able to like, the most easiest way was that if you could get them in States, because I think Makeup Geek was based, like Marlene lives in the States, and obviously because this was a US based brand, it was probably like especially for US customers most easy to get this, but I am pretty sure like also people from other countries did order these singles, but obviously then you probably had to pay some import fees in addition. So that's a bit maybe about the background, but Marlene did start a new brand recently. I have heard mentions of this brand, but however the Marlene's new brand, which is House of Marsté, they have launched they started out with fragrances, and I'm not a fragrance review channel. I don't cover them in my makeup news content. I do know some channels do cover also fragrances within their makeup or beauty news videos, but I like to keep these videos specifically related to makeup. So they have started out with fragrances, so that is why I haven't talked about this brand a lot, but they are also now coming out with eyeshadow palettes. What is highly questionable with these palettes is the pricing. So these palettes are $68 each, and if these would be like indie palettes that have multi-chromes and there would be interesting color stories, then I could say that okay, that is a fair price. But when I looked at these, I was thinking that these look something like maybe what was around, well, now this sounds quite ironic considering when I just said that how Marlena became quite known in the community. So this looks something like we had probably in 2016 and 2015 in terms of like eyeshadow releases. For me, this doesn't look like what a contemporary eyeshadow palette, at least in my opinion, should look like. I don't think there's anything that interesting. The color stories are quite basic, and I'm just wondering that what is costing $68? I mean, it could be that these are, I don't actually have this, I don't have any information where these are manufactured, at least so far. I think you could maybe see that on the website, but for me this just doesn't look like $68 eyeshadow palettes, or at least I wouldn't pay $68 for these particular palettes, because they just don't look that interesting. But comment down below. As I said, I do know Marlena is very appreciated in the makeup community still, so do these appeal to you? Maybe because who is like behind these eyeshadow color stories, but for me these just aren't that interesting that I would be willing to pay the price of these particular palettes. Then some Valentines. So first one is Catrice. So this is the Valentine Who limited edition collection, and within this collection I think there are lip stylos, there is a makeup bag, and then I think there are 2 cream blushes, and then we have the one of their mascaras in a limited edition packaging. I mean, this is pretty bit different. This has this sort of like leather theme. Obviously it's faux leather, there's not real leather in the packaging, but it kind of has this faux leather theme to it, and I think this bit like edgier Valentines. For me, I think, I have said this quite many times, for me these limited edition Catrice and Essence collections are not something that I'm usually interested in, and for me in this collection there isn't nothing that piques my interest, but this is, I think, going to be coming to European drugstores pretty soon, because I do think this has already been spotted in Germany. Rare Beauty is also coming out with a new product in their line, so this is soft matte powder bronzer, and I did have to like pause for a thought, because I was thinking that did Rare Beauty already have powder bronzers, but I actually did come to the conclusion that no, this is a completely new product line for them, which is a bit strange, because they do have quite extensive cheek line, and I do know, for example, that their liquid and cream cheek products have been pretty popular, so I do think that it was about time that they did extend their cheek products to powder bronzers. I think are these already, yeah, these are all the shades. So there are seven shades available. The gradient seems to be quite okay, from fair to the deepest shade, but Rare Beauty is one of those brands that is unfortunately a bit harder for me to get, because in most European countries it is a Sephora exclusive brand, and I unfortunately live in one of the countries that don't have a Sephora in them. So this could be something, because Rare Beauty is more decently priced brand in Sephora, that if I travel during the summer, and if there happens to be a Sephora in the country that I'm traveling into, then I could maybe look into these, that if I find the shades appealing. But for me, a bronzer, it has to be a more neutral leaning bronzer, because I'm someone who has a fair, cool, rosy undertone. So a warm bronzer will just look too orange on me. For me, it has to be a true neutral one. So this goes to the like maybe category at some point if I come across this one when I'm traveling, but so like immediately at this moment it's a skip. Then something from Lethal. So SpongeBob has been getting quite many collaborations, and I was thinking that why are we suddenly getting so many SpongeBob collaboration? Well, apparently there's a new movie coming. I was never a fan of SpongeBob, the animated series. I think it just begun in our country. I don't think it took that long time for the series to come into our country once it started coming, like rolling in the States. So I am very familiar with this franchise, but I just found the program altogether a bit annoying. So for me, this the collaboration holds no appeal. But aside from Lethal, I think I saw Wet n Wild did a SpongeBob collaboration, and I also think Made by Mitchell did also a collection. But both of those brands are kind of brands that I don't usually feature in my Make News videos, because they're just not brands that I'm generally interested in. But regarding the Lethal's collection, I mean, I do think, considering the aesthetics of SpongeBob, this is pretty accurate. I can like see the IP in this one, but this is something that's just not I'm not interested in this one. I do think that if you are like shopping especially European indie brands, because Lethal is German-based brand, and for example you are looking for a nice rainbow palette, I do think the eyeshadow palette in this collection, it looks quite nice, and Lethal has been upping their quality. I think they recently did a rebrand, and they might have done some reformulation. Aside from eyeshadow palettes, there seems to be nail polishes. You get some, I think those might be pH adjusting lip balms, and I think there are also some stick cheek products here. I think those looks like blush and a highlighter, and then there are some brushes. For me this is a skip, because I'm not a fan of the IP, but I do think if you're looking a bit more colorful makeup from any European indie brand, this could be something to look into. Okay, then something I'm gonna say that ABH is very late with this one. So this is the GLIDR eyeshadow stick. Positive thing about this launch is that I do think it is a very extensive eyeshadow stick range. I'm looking at the swatches of this one, and there is a whole range from neutral to more colorful shades. However, I'm a bit unsure if you have a ABH stand, that will all of these shades come in store. It could be that because this is such a wide shade range, depending how big your ABH stands are, it could be that the shade range in store is a bit more limited, and some shades you have to order online. I have my favorite eyeshadow stick formula, and because this is ABH, this is probably a bit more on the pricier side, but I will give them credit that they actually did something more, because usually these more traditional brands, they usually go on with quite what I would say safe color choices with eyeshadow sticks, because those are obviously the products that sell the most. So I am happy to see that they at least did quite many also like poppy shades, but for me, as I said, Kiko Milano eyeshadow sticks are something that I would rather buy. Those are cheaper, and they also do quite fun poppy shades and some more neutral shades. So Estee Lauder has announced has come out with a new lipstick. I do think this is one of those products that's available in Germany. So this is the Futurist HydraPlump Tinted Lip Balm. So I think I discussed in the beginning of the year that Estee Lauder finally came out with liquid blushes, and now we are seeing these tinted lip balms. This really shows that traditional high-end brands seem to launch the products, the like hip products as the last ones, because I think we have now these like glossy lip balm products were very popular during last year. I think by now almost like every brand has done them. So I don't need an Estee Lauder variation of this particular product, especially concerning price, but I do have to say the packaging is kind of fun, so I will give them credit for that. Like this is at least looks like high-end packaging, which obviously Estee Lauder is a high-end brand, but for me, as I said, I think we have now seen this quite many times, and you can definitely get something similar at a less price already. Then I think the first Valentine's collection where I went like that, I think I want quite a lot of things, but I do have to consider that there might also be other things that I want to budget for. So, Kiko Milano's Valentine's collection. Kiko's Valentine's collection during the last couple of years, I haven't been a fan of them. Kiko has usually come out with a couple of collections during the year that I'm usually interested in, and I usually end up shopping some products from. But the Valentine's collection during the last few years haven't been exactly my cup of tea, so I am actually pretty excited that we got a traditional red Valentine's theme with this year's collection, because I do think this looks beautiful. So obviously I think what are my sort of top picks from this launch, it would be the face duos. I think these are actually a pretty new product format from Kiko. I don't think I have seen them release these kind of face duos. There was already like one YouTuber who had a review of these ones. I think the because for me the face duos, they kind of look that they are like creams, but I think they might be powders, even though they kind of, initially when you look at them you would think that they might have this sort of putty formula, but I do think the face duos are powders. And then the like second most obvious, the 3D Hydra lip glosses. I would certainly not need another one. I would certainly not need all three ones. However, all the three ones in this particular collection, all the three shades are beautiful. These are the more sparkly variations of the lip glosses, and this is something that I have raved about my channel, that I think aside from Fenty Gloss Bomb, these are pretty awesome. You can actually get the glosses in a set. That's a very dangerous product, especially for person like me. Also, I do think actually the bullet lipsticks are, I think these are satin finished, those also look kind of nice. We shall have to see what I will end up doing with this one, because we are soon gonna be, in the last video I had the Unearthly Made a Monster eyeshadow palette that I'm kind of eyeing, and then there's this one, and we're gonna see a palette also in this video that I'm kind of interested in, and I'm not gonna be able to afford everything, so we shall have to see how we will end up. But this goes to the strong consideration category of products that I would really much like to get some products from. Definitely not everything, because as always the Kiko's collection, there is a lot of products in this one. Moira has launched, I think, their variation of this sort of like blurring cream powder. So I think these are called the Love Blur Blush powders, or powder blushes, and these I think are meant to dupe the Rare Beauty blushes. This is the kind of blush formula that the Rare Beauty variation, I wasn't a fan of that one, so these are the kind of bouncy blushes. I actually ended up decluttering the Rare Beauty bouncy blush because I just wasn't so wowed with the formula as some people were when I saw reviews of the blushes initially. I think the Moira's advantage is that these are much more like, or not much more, but these are less expensive than the Real Beauty ones. These are gonna be $9 US each. Well, that is a pretty good price. As I said, this Bouncy Pearl blush formula, for some reason this didn't work out for me. I think my favorite variation of this one so far was the Makeup Revolution one. However, I do think the Makeup Revolution's variation of this Bouncy blush formula, it was a bit different in terms of formulation, because it was more what I would say, it had more of a domey, it almost had like a baked effect to it, and it was also much more glowier, because I think the Moira's variation are also looking to be quite matte, which is closer to the Rare Beauty variation of the blushes. So this goes to a category that I would very much maybe like to see these in store and then make my consideration, do I want to spend my money on these, but this is just a formulation generally that I have not been that into. Benefits Lunar New Year collection. We haven't seen, there's been a couple of ones, but a lot of them have been quite dull, so I haven't featured them. I think this year's, the Chinese Lunar New Year, it's the year of the horse, at least based on the sort of things that I've seen on social media. Someone can correct me in the comments about that one. I think these are all, yeah, so I think in terms of shades, these probably are recycled, but I do kind of like the limited edition like packaging that this has, so it has a kind of golden themed packaging, and I do think the blush duo that has the Villa blush and the cookie highlighter, because obviously what else are they gonna put than the Villa blush and the cookie highlighter, because I think those are one of their best seller shades. So I think this is kind of a cute Lunar New Year collection if it's something you celebrate and you want to buy gifts for someone who celebrates it, but for me I think these are definitely products that exist already on Benefits line. Okay, so Flowerknows has announced a new Bunny Garden collection. So I did a Flowerknows review, like brand review on my channel last year. I bought all the products, like pretty much all of the products aside from a couple of gifts from friends and family in this channel are usually like that I have spent my own money on them. I wasn't so in love with the quality compared to the prices that I paid for the Flowerknows products, so you can go and watch the review video if you want to get sort of hear my thoughts about this and why I wasn't so in love with the things. But I still wanted to feature this because what Flowerknows does especially well is the packaging and the sort of curation of products. Is this like on the limit again, that is it too extra of a packaging? Is it maybe getting to the borderline of being too kid makeup-esque? Maybe, but I do still think that this again is on the side that at least I think that it's still like very cute and very nice on its very extra way. However, my main concerns would again be that how would I actually like the products, especially with the eyeshadow palettes. We know that those were actually like, if you watch the review video, those were the like I think the most detested product of the particular review. And considering that they are also usually the pricier parts of their collection, that especially like put a lot of minus points in the eyeshadow palettes that at least I tried. The blushes, I am a sucker for these because Flowerknows does these more muted blush shades, and I do think especially again in this sort of like garden, Bunny Garden collection, I am like eyeing quite a few of the blushes and thinking that I would like, aside from the orangey shade, I think the rest of the 4 shades would all be shades that I would be like a lot, but we all know that I can't be adding 4 new blushes in my collection. Aside from the blushes, I think we have some cream liquid lipsticks in this one, and then you get the mirrors, and then there are some other accessory products. So, I mean, it's very cute and everything, but since I wasn't having such a good time, and considering that this is quite of a pricey brand to actually order from China to Europe, I think it's a skip from me. But if you do like your Flowerknows, because I do know there are also a lot of people who actually like this brand, they are coming up with a new collection, and I do think this is pretty appropriate for the spring season. And then the palette that I'm eyeing, and so Nomad Cosmetics, which is a travel-inspired indie brand, they have launched a new eyeshadow palette. This is going to be live by the time this video is edited and goes up, so this goes live on Monday, I think, and this is the Paris La Bohemia palette. So this seems to be a theme with a lot of Nomad palettes for me, is that there's half of this palette that I actually like and half of this palette that's a bit questionable. However, I think we are still, even with the questionable side, on the side that I actually do want to get this into my collection and try this out. So this has the sort of theme, I think they are describing this as I do think this is kind of their like Valentine's release, because it kind of has the more like romantic side, and then there is the sort of like maybe grungy or edgier side that has the more like, what I would say, like neutral, so you have some mustardy shades in the other side. So I'm obviously the fan of the like the reddish pinkish purple side, and then the sort of like edgier side. Like there are a few, like I am like the brown tones in the more like edgier side, and actually the mustard tones are actually something I do like. What I'm a bit questioning are the like blues and greens in it, because those are usually not the colors that I gravitate towards that much. But I do think this has enough for it that I would actually think that I might go on the website on Monday and maybe make the order for this one, because I do think that this would be something that I would enjoy, even if it's not like a 100% perfect palette in terms of the color story. And the last release of the the video, we are still in the beginning of the year, so last release of the video. So deandranicoleee is doing, I think, another collaboration with bellabeautébar. So deandranicoleee is a creator, especially on Instagram. She does swatches on like a lot of swatches, and I do think a lot of indie brands especially do usually repost her swatches because she does them quite well. So this is Pinky Promise, and she is claiming in the description box that it is a sort of spicier little sister to the Ultraviolet palette that was released last year. So they are continuing with the theme of monochromatic palettes. I think my biggest maybe like why I am not buying this one is that I have the bellabeautébar Dead Roses palette, and I do think this is maybe being a bit too close to that one. Even though I do think that this is a bit more on the pinkier side. Second thing is that if I want a monochromatic all pink palette, I also have the Beauty Bay 42 pan pink palette that I always say that no one needs that much pink. So while this does probably have some special shades, but because I have the Dead Roses palette that has Dead Roses palette that is from bellabeautébar that has the similar shades in the bellabeautébar formula, and I have the Beauty Bay 42 pan palette, I don't need to buy this one. I do think that if you are looking for a monochromatic pink palette from a indie brand, this could be something to look into. It's bellabeautébar, so it's probably a bit pricier. They usually put a lot of special shades, so I do think that this is something that you have to consider. Do you really want this much pink? But for a pink lover, I think that this would be a very beautiful palette. But I would also maybe look especially carefully that if you bought the original Ultraviolet palette that they launched last year and you have the Dead Roses palette from bellabeautébar, then I would again like look into those two palettes and then make the consideration that do you actually need to add this, because with this monochromatic palette there is also usually the downside that a lot of the shades, even though they might look a bit different on the pans, they can actually end up looking a bit similar on the eyes. But still, for Nicole, congratulations. I know she has a lot of fans on social media, so I do know that this probably will sell well. But for me, it is a skip, because while I am a huge lover of pink eyeshadow, for me, I have my fill of monochromatic pink palettes already. Those were all the products that I had to discuss for today. My favorite, definitely the Kiko's Valentine's collection and the new Nomad palette. I think we are going to be having to, as I said, make some very difficult choices. Also, the Made a Monster palette that I featured last week, I don't still think we have the official date for Monolith Shop's January launch, because they are saying now end of January, so for me that kind of sounds that it's either the last week or the second last week, so I am still kind of also waiting for Monolith to sort of tell which is the specifics, because usually they do the launches on Sunday, that which Sunday is it. If it's the like truly the last Sunday of January, then I might actually be able to get both the Nomad palette and the new Unearthly palette. But I do think that what I might do is that, because we haven't got that sort of Monolith announcement yet, is that I might actually end up buying the Nomad palette, and then I will just wait until February when I have some new budget, and then in the beginning of February order the Unearthly palette, because at least in recent times with Monolith Shop, it's not these days things usually don't sell out. There are like some specific launches that might sell out at launch, but for example, I don't think with Unearthly we have had that now with a couple of like recent launches that all of them like sell out immediately, so I might take the risk and just wait out for the week or couple of weeks depending when the Monolith launch will happen, and then just buy the Unearthly palette later. But comment down below what were your sort of top picks for new launches, or of course if there was a launch that I didn't feature but is worth mentioning, then also put that in the comments. If you liked this video, push the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell button if you want to get notifications from future content. You can also find with the same nickname Makeup Hedgehog on Instagram. I hope I'm going to see you in that video. Bye bye!